So we're learning Gregg to be efficient, right? So if we take the word knee, we are really just slashing 50% of the letters in there to communicate the word that we actually need. So there's this type of shortcut which allows Gregg to be super fast. But then there's another concept called brief forms. And you can think of brief forms as a kind of abbreviation. Like we do this in longhand all the time. The word okay becomes okay. Laugh out loud becomes LOL. We have endless amounts of abbreviations. Government becomes GOVT. So we should already be really familiar with this concept. In shorthand, the exact same thing happens. So there's a couple of really high frequency used words that are converted into single strokes in Gregg. So for instance, the K can represent the word can. The G can represent both the words go and good. So if you come across a lone G in a sentence, it's either going to be go or good. And the way you tell the difference, again, like we talked about, is the context of the entire sentence. Next one is probably a little bit easier to stomach, which is the R. A standalone R can mean our, or can mean are, right? You might do this when you're texting, like, are we going to our house? Something like that. So, again, standalone R can represent 3 different words. You infer the meaning from the context of the sentence. L is will or well. Again, are you feeling L? You can kind of connect the dots there. Are you feeling well? So instead of having to write the W, the E, and the L, are you feeling L? Right? Okay, so there's a list that I've created, and we're going to start adding to the list. But basically, a lot of these strokes that you just learned, like the D, they usually have a brief form representation that allows you to already have memorized a whole bunch of words if you can write the different letters. The only thing that's kind of tricky and worth note is if you have a standalone A, which is a large circle, it actually means I. And then similarly, if you have a dot that stands all by itself, that's not an ing or an H sound, it's actually just an A. Okay, so if you have a sentence and it has a standalone dot, it actually means A. So let's do an example. Okay, to demonstrate, in this first sentence, each of these words can actually be represented by a string of these brief forms. So it can just be T, T, will, L, go, G, well, again. Okay, so if you came across this in a shorthand sentence, it may be kind of hard to pick apart aside from the context. But that's where, like, it's pretty rare that this would happen. And if it does, like, usually it's a high frequency phrase or word, which you can, kind of begin to puzzle out. Again, it seems much more daunting than it really is. You don't actually encounter this problem as much as you might think. So let's do an example with the weird ones. So I, again, is a loop like so, not an A sound. When it stands alone, it represents I. I am there, a left motion TH, a lot. And we haven't learned this sound just yet, but just bear with me. So again, when a dot is on its own, aside from all the other characters, it represents an A. When it's attached to a vowel, like hack, then it represents an H. When it's at the bottom, it represents an ing, so hacking. Okay, so print this out, memorize it, and then start adding this list of, create a running dictionary of the different brief forms that we're going to learn throughout this course.